right, the email dump is on, and they're sorting through them, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and this is your world. And Hillary Clinton in a world of trouble and controversy amid some emails that seem to indicate she shared some rather classified information on that private server of his, the details of which are just coming to light. It is way too early to see the long-term political impact of this on the former Secretary of State. What is clear is that, well, there is blood in the water and sharks on the hunt. We're going to get to the political interest on the part of other candidates who might be eyeing that Democratic nomination as a result of an email scandal or mess, whatever you want to call it, that now seems to be engulfing the candidate. To Catherine Herridge in Washington on what we're gleaning from this email release. Catherine.
Well, thanks, Neil. If you do a search through the emails released just hours ago using a code for classified information, you'll find several dozen like this one, a conversation between Clinton and one of her top diplomats that was retroactively classified just last night. This reinforces the findings of the intelligence community's watchdog, known as the Inspector General, that classified emails on Mrs. Clinton's server contained information from as many as 5 intelligence agencies. Court documents filed in the prosecution of former CIA Director David Petraeus now strongly suggest a double standard in the application of the law is at play. The retired general was prosecuted for the unauthorized removal and storage of classified information at his Virginia home. Quote, the FBI executed a court-authorized search warrant at the Petraeus residence and seized the black notebooks from an unlocked desk drawer in the first-floor study of the Petraeus residence. But in this case, the White House and State Department spokesman insisted today there are no similarities between Petraeus, who kept classified information in his personal notebooks at home in an unsecured setting, and Mrs. Clinton, who also kept classified information on a personal server at her home in an unsecured setting. Take a listen.
I'm just not going to speak to. I'm just not going to speak like it's to General Petraeus' case. It's just it's apples and oranges.
I wouldn't judge the decision that's being made about enforcing the law by the Department of Justice. If you have questions about that, you should direct it to them.
Classified emails on Mrs. Clinton's personal server and this backup copy on a thumb drive held by her lawyer David Kendall appear to be a violation of what's called 18 U.S. Code 1924, and this is the law governing the unlawful removal and storage of classified information. And the statements from the White House and State Department today, Neil, really missed the point. It's not whether it's secured now. The fact is the classified information should never have been on a server or a thumb drive. They should never have been outside of a secure government system, and that is what happened, Neil.
You know, Catherine, is it weird that we come to find out her lawyer has all of this on a thumb drive? So that's another person who has it all at his disposal. That's kind of weird.
Well, this came to light because of the investigation by the intelligence community's watchdog known as the IG. And this, unfortunately for them, shows that there is a greater preponderance of evidence that the law has been broken because it shows that the classified information that was improperly held by Mrs. Clinton has also gone beyond that and now is held on that thumb drive by her lawyer, Neil.
Wow. Catherine Herridge, thank you very much. Great reporting as always. And, you know, there are hundreds, even that when all is said and done, thousands of emails to go through here, some redacted, crossed out. So when you look at this information via Freedom of Information request, gleaning it or reading it or understanding it next to impossible because you're releasing sometimes classified material, so you can't showcase that to the world. So understand the double jeopardy for reporters looking into this. To the Washington Examiner's Sarah Westwood, who knows this much early on, for a lot of big Hillary Clinton donors and Democratic donors, antsy times. Explain. What's going on here?
Absolutely. Some of Hillary Clinton's donors are starting to have doubts because of the controversies that have been surrounding her server, especially the news last week that the 2 inspectors general have referred this case to the Department of Justice for an investigation. Whether you classify that as criminal or not, they're looking into whether she broke the law by mishandling classified information, and that's going to make any donor reluctant to give to her campaign.
All right. Now, many already have, to your earlier points here, and they obviously feel confident, or at least they had, that despite the growing crowds that Bernie Sanders is getting, despite all the noise about maybe even Joe Biden enters the race, they seem to feel pretty comfortable she'll weather it all. It's still early. Much of America's attention isn't turned to this. How long do they feel that way?
Well, you know, this is a narrative that is out of Hillary Clinton's control. Donors can give more money to help her buy more ads, to help her survive a competitive primary that they likely expected because she did face challenges in 2008. What they can't control is what Hillary Clinton has already done. And as details about what she's already done emerge, they feel more and more powerless to help save her from herself. And giving donations isn't going to help prevent another shoe from dropping.
You know, as we were saying, Sarah, that it takes time to go through this stuff. I remember with the release of the Pentagon Papers, they were going through one thing after another, very different, I know, night and day. But it takes a while. But with the New York Times, Washington Post, a lot of organizations will start going through this line by line. I don't know how aggressive they'll be doing so. But we will seize on irregularities and inconsistencies. That is almost inevitable. Then it gets to be what you said then, what you're saying now. How much traction does that get?
Well, it depends on what gets dragged up in the emails. And like you said, this particular batch of emails was heavily redacted. That's likely a result of the blowback that the State Department has faced from releasing a classified email to the public on accident. So it's definitely going to be difficult to glean anything new from the emails that we're seeing today, because just a cursory look that we did this morning shows a lot of it is redacted and almost unintelligible in some cases.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me when they released the Watergate papers and they had, for curse words, explicit deleted or crossed out lines or old blacked out pages. Who knows what's going to happen? Sarah, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at the corner wall and broader where we wrapped up. Now, uneventful close to what had been a very eventful month. If you were to think about where we ended this rocky month, what if I told you about where we began it? I know that sounds goofy, but take a look at the Dow. Though down about 55 points today, it barely changed at all, up 0.4%. S&P, the NASDAQ. You know, the real story was in this month we had Greece and we had a Russia saber rattling and we had Iran and the talks and we had so many crises and that shutdown in the Dow for much of a trading day. Take a look at the story of the month. Has to be oil. I'm telling you, folks, that's down 21% on the month, and the effect on oil stocks was real and severe. Most of them down and down a lot. And I know there are not many lobbies for the oil giants, and I didn't hear any calls on Capitol Hill for what clearly must have been a cabal in these tumbling oil prices. I guess that happens only when they clearly craft them upwards. But tens of thousands of oil and oil services jobs were lost this month, gone, obliterated. Their jobs don't count because that's evil oil. I want to point that out because you'll hear a lot about other industries when they lose jobs and how it is the fault of others, but never those companies, and certainly never Washington. And I want you to hear a little bit about those losses of jobs and wonder, where is the demand for hearings? Where are the violent playings for those jobs in this very evil industry that gave up a lot of ground this month? All right, to Capitol Hill and this effort now to defund Planned Parenthood once and for all. I want you to meet the Democrat helping to lead that charge.
You hear a lot of demonstrations across the country now about Black Lives Matter. Well, they skip one place. They should be in front of Planned Parenthood. They skip one place, not just the police department. In front of Planned Parenthood. Black Lives Matter. America